Hey there everybody, I just want to make sure that you know about some new video work that I've done. I've really put my all into this stuff, doing drawing challenges that are different from anything I've ever attempted before. So click on the link in the description box below and go to ah.com to check it out. I think you're really going to like this stuff, and you can't see it anywhere else. Hey there everybody, it's Mark Riley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. Today we're going to be doing a fan art video of how to draw Sebastian from Black Butler. So what I've done is I've begun with a perfect square, actually two perfect squares, this one divided into 4 quarters and then the one beneath it just in half. These are about 2.5 inches on all sides, but you know, you can make it 3 inches. You can make it any width that you want as long as it's a perfect square. Now I'm going to begin with drawing some basic guidelines to give myself the shape of the head. And let me just say that this video is going to go step by step through the line placement stage, and then maybe use time-lapse towards the end for the shading. I feel like I've done a lot of videos lately that focus on coloring, shading, some of the end parts of the process, while not focusing very much on this beginning process. So we're going to do a little trade-off this time. Anyway, I'm making the shape of Sebastian's head, which is, of course, just round at the top, but then it becomes quite pointy as it comes down to the chin. And you can use this dividing line. You know, we're doing a sort of a 3/4 point of view. And you can use this dividing line to help you see where these lines come across and come. His chin doesn't come quite to a point. It's a little tiny bit squared off. You know what it reminds me of a little bit? And this make people laugh. It reminds me a little bit of the Joker from Batman. In the old days, they used to draw him with this incredibly pointy chin. Anyway, if you want to try to get the shape of the head right, use this grid pattern to sort of help you see it, especially in terms of where these lines cross the various lines in the grid. And, you know, of course, I'm showing you inevitably how to draw Sebastian's face in just one position, a 3/4 view. And in a lot of ways, a lesson like this amounts to a sort of, you know, confidence-building lesson. You could say, I'm not really showing you how to draw this guy in all the different ways that he appears, just one particular pose. Anyway, I've added the ear, you can see here on this side, just the sort of rough outline of it. And let's go ahead and work on the neck real quick and down into the shoulders. So this first line of the neck is going to be just to the right of his chin, I suppose his left. My right, his left. And then over here we're going to make the other side of his neck. Now as I was studying, you know, these illustrations of Sebastian, I noticed that his neck seemed rather thin or narrow from side to side, certainly not one of these athletic-looking characters. And now I'm going to come and create this slope of the shoulders. A bit of a trick, but again, this lower box down here will help you see basically how far this diagonal line comes down before it crosses. It doesn't quite reach down to there, so that'll help you with the placement of that. And I'm just going to come over here to do the other far shoulder. He has quite wide shoulders, quite broad shoulders, I would say, and then coming across like so. You kind of have to maybe imagine this line down here extended a little bit for drawing this other shoulder, which, like I said, very broad, curves, comes down here, gently curves across, and comes to an end somewhere out here. Boy, I'd say nearly a whole width of this again out here. Hope I'm getting this right. I did, you know, in studying this stuff, I thought, boy, those shoulders are quite broad. Anyway, let me refocus the camera because I want to zoom in on the face and the placement of the facial features. All right, so I'm going to begin with the eyebrows, and Sebastian's eyebrows are quite diagonal in orientation, has this sort of sly, mischievous look to him, and that is generally achieved by way of what we would normally call angry-looking eyebrows, you know, pointing down towards the middle of the face, in combination with a sly smile, and that's how you get this sort of mischievous look. And I'm going to take from this eyebrow over here, kind of extend down and begin to make the bridge of the nose. Now, he has quite a long nose. Is that the right word? High from top to bottom. There is some length to his nose, but use this line, this cross line here, the bottom line of the square, to help you sort of see that the nose comes down all the way past that line before coming to a stop. And actually, this line here will eventually get erased. I'll leave it there for now if you want to try to copy that for placement purposes. But let's move back up here to the eyes. And his eyes are quite narrow from top to bottom, wide from side to side. Again, sort of adds to this sort of shifty, or I don't know if shifty is the right word, sort of mischievous look that he has. And that eye that is over on the far side of the face, because this is a 3/4 view, is going to be a little narrower from side to side than the other eye, which falls pretty much along this middle line here. Pay attention to the distance between the eyebrow and this upper eyelash line, which comes over fairly near to where that ear ends. You got to pay attention to that gap as well. I mean, I've said this a million times, but it is worth saying 1,000,001 times that you got to pay attention to the distances between things, not just what you're drawing, but the placement of these lines and these white spaces between things, just as important, every bit as important as the lines you're putting on the page. So let's move down to the mouth. Now the mouth is very much closer to the nose than it is to the chin. So I'm dropping it in here, and we'll refine this a little more later on. But for now, just pay attention to how close that is to the nose, how distant it is from the chin. And this may look like I've kind of overdone it, and maybe I have by a touch. But what fills in this space a little bit is an indication of the lower lip. And yeah, I think maybe I did sort of overdo it. Just, I'll correct it by shortening the chin a bit. Can I get away with that? And I often end up doing this, even when I'm drawing my own character, Brody, sort of getting the facial features in place and then slightly tweaking the contour line of the chin to sort of accommodate for different stuff like that. And this is giving you the basics of the line placement of the facial features. I know it doesn't look very good right now. It looks kind of terrible right now, but we will fix it as we add more features. Let's go ahead and put in a couple of more things, like the iris. I'm having him looking at us. He's, his face is turned away. He's looking back at us. His irises much of them are concealed by the upper eyelid line. Makes him look very relaxed, or in this case, as I keep saying, sort of sly. I'm going to get a fold of the upper eyelid. I feel like maybe we shouldn't go too much further into the details of the eyes at this stage. Let's get the nostril in here, just a little sort of a hooking line down here. And, of course, he's never going to look like Sebastian until we do the hair. So let me go ahead and refocus here so we can start working on that. Okay, so let's get going with the hair here. Of course, a very important part of drawing Sebastian's face. And so what I'm going to do is create a secondary line a fair distance above the initial circle that we drew. Manga characters generally have pretty full-bodied hair, or at least the hair area of the face and head is taking up quite a large proportion of that part of the drawing. And so I'm going to start by drawing this first part of his hair. It all kind of hangs down, by manga standards, I guess you could say. This is sort of a flat-lying haircut. It doesn't pop up into the air too much. Most of the various strands of hair are going to be pointing downwards. And really, I guess your main decision is how long, what is the length of these strands of hair. And I found that looking at the tip of the chin, wherever you decide to put that, is a pretty good guideline insofar as the strands of hair will extend just a touch past that, not very much farther. And having got this into place, I'm going to make a few more strands out here on this side. And not every illustration I saw of Sebastian had this, but some did. A couple of strands near the top that are actually curving off in a different direction. And I sort of liked that, so I adopted that into my illustration. Then coming over here, just a little bit past the ear is where I'm going to have one very small strand come off. Again, sort of curling upwards just a touch. And then down here we reach the back of his neck, and I'm going to put 3 or 4 very small strands here that in fact are higher up even than this one strand that we've drawn, in terms of how far down they go. Now it's time to, well, let's go over here and we'll draw one curving line that sort of frames the left side of his eye. His right eye. I'm gonna get all confused with the right, the left. He's on the, oh, wait a minute. And I'm gonna make another line here of a single strand. I saw this in quite a number of illustrations, that he has this one single unruly strand that comes right across, and if you're sort of looking for a guideline there, it very conveniently lands right around the intersection of these lines. I think I'm actually going a little too far with that. And that allows us to come up with a final curving line that, again, is sort of framing this one eye over here. It's funny, because I know in previous videos I've talked about how I like to not obscure the eyes with the hair, and so I will have the hair dip low between the two eyes, but not right in front of them, not covering them up. And indeed, Sebastian seems to have the same preference when he wakes up in the morning and does his hair. He's like, oh, I mustn't cover up my gorgeous eyes. So anyway, we're doing a strand here by the ears, very common in a lot of hairstyles, both male and female. And it's actually composed of, I'd say, 3 separate smaller strands, but it's all sort of grouping together. Now that I've got that, I want to, what do I want to do? Mark, what do I want to do? I'm going to finish up this ear, let's say, while we're here. And one thing I noticed, and some of you may have watched my video that's about the anatomy of the ear, but a lot of Japanese cartoonists want to connect this part with this upper line like so. And then they have a whole separate second line down like this, which is not, I dare say, not really representative of ear anatomy, although it certainly looks cool. And I think that's enough, really, for the lines of the ear. I mean, who watches a Sebastian video to learn how to draw his ear? Really? Come on. I don't think anyone's really focused on that part. I'm going to maybe refocus those so that I can draw the collar of his shirt. Okay, well, I'm going to try to move quickly at this stage. There's a number of things that I want to cover real time in this video, and to be honest, the clothing is just going to have to take a back seat. But he has one of these cool collars that the tips of the collar sort of flip forward above his necktie. So, what can I say? If you want to draw this, maybe just hit the pause button rather than have me talk at length about this. But here comes the necktie, and it's fairly thick. The knot of the necktie fairly thick. You got to draw the band, not the bands. What would you even call these? I never know. Never know. I never know. I wouldn't be Crilly if I knew. But just the necktie itself, I guess, is visible as it goes around his neck. And this completes that collar. I'm going to quickly dash in the lapel. Got to be the lapel. And that might do it for the for this part of the video. Like I said, I feel like I have to sort of pick and choose what aspects I'm going to do in a line-by-line way and which things we're going to zoom through. And I feel definitely we want to talk a little more about the details of the eyes. I think people will certainly be very interested in that. And yet I do want to do a little bit of time-lapsing on the my trusty black Prismacolor stuff. So let's refocus the camera, and we may do just a little bit of time-lapse of me darkening in many of the lines, but leaving the lines of the face blank so that I can, you know, add details to that in real time rather than time-lapse. So let's go ahead and do some black Prismacoloring. All right, so I've got all of the lines sort of inked, as it were, with this black Prismacolor pencil. And what we're going to do now is zoom in and do in real time the facial features, which, of course, I deliberately did not go over with permanent pencil quite yet, because there are some more details, and I think people will want to see that and go through that in real time. So let's zoom in and get into it. All right, so with the black Prismacolor, I am going to begin darkening in the lines of the upper eyelash, a fairly thick line, and in general, his eyes are, I must say, fairly feminine looking in terms of the what appears to be eyeliner. Does anyone know? Does he actually apply eyeliner in the morning? Who knows, but he does have those sort of dark outlined eyes that give him this distinctive look. Add somehow to that sort of sly thing that I was talking about, that mischievous look. And I'm going to darken in the outline of his iris. One thing I noticed about Sebastian's irises compared to some of the characters, male characters that I see in other manga like Naruto or Bleach, is that his pupils are fairly large compared to the pupils of the eyes of those other characters. But we're going to get one little indication of a highlight in there. And maybe I should, instead of just moving right on to the next eye, I'm going to go ahead and do this eyebrow, which is coming down at a fairly extreme angle as these things go. There's no little hook or anything at the end of this eyebrow, as there sometimes is. I want to be very cautious as I do this line for the bridge of the nose. It's very thin, it's very straight, and quite subtle in a way. And moving on from there, I'm going to do the other eyebrow, trying to reproduce that same angle. Notice that it gets a touch thicker near the bottom and then sort of tapers off as it goes higher. And there is, interestingly, an indication of lower eyelashes, which one only very rarely sees in male characters, I must say. So we're going to darken in as much as we can in a very similar way this other eye, which, as I said before, is wider from side to side. But you get a sort of doubling up of lines here. There's this line that comes down towards where the tear duct would be, and then a second line that kind of juts off of it. And I must confess, I probably messed up in terms of this strand of hair. Very often this far right edge of his eye is obscured a bit by the hair, but I'm going to go ahead and just indicate it. And we make this line go across the lower eyelash line. And in some versions, like I said, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe tiny little eyelash lines in there. I'm going to actually go in with an eraser here and try to tame that first one. I think I went a little too far with it. And let's go on and do the iris much the same way. Fairly large pupil. The location of the pupil is important within this eye, that the pupil itself is overlapped by this upper eyelash. So you may want to pay attention to that. But the upper eyelid line, as is so often the case, is considerably thicker than its counterpart on the lower eyelid. And let's just go in here and get this fold of the upper eyelid, and we may be done with that. All right. Now we can move on to doing the lines of the nose. Quite simple. There's a line. Whoa, my Prismacolor has shattered. Ended up with an inadvertent dot down there. I think we can go ahead and connect those two. It is the one big drawback of the black Prismacolor. If they're pointy and you press down, you can sort of shatter them. And here's this little hooked line of the nostril. Now the mouth is going to require a certain amount of concentration. Get a part of it over here. I'm leaving kind of a gap to sort of let it breathe. Whoa, really hooked it there. He's looking extra devious. I'm going to try, like I said again, to sort of tame that line a little. Now the black Prismacolor is pretty much permanent, but if you go at it with an eraser, you can sort of pull back on it a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. I think we saved it, man. Oh, that was close. And now we're going to do the lower lip, or sort of like a shadow below the lower lip would be more accurate. And that might be all we need to do in terms of black outlines. I'm going to move on to the shading part. And like I said, there's trade-offs. Trade-offs in so many of these videos, especially I just completed this marathon series of real-time videos. This one I sort of promised myself I would allow myself the freedom of going back into time-lapse land, revving up that time-lapse machine to finish off this illustration. I do feel with drawing a character of this sort, job number one is getting the lines in the right place, getting the facial features in the right place, and the toning is something that you can come to later. All the beautiful toning in the world is not going to save the illustration if you've got the eyes and the nose and so forth in the wrong location. So I thought that it was appropriate that in this one I would devote most of my real-time videoing to the facial features and the eyes and so forth. And now we are going to, at long last, for the first time in... Sorry about that. Serves me right for all the hemming and hawing. My video camera ran out of memory while I was gearing up for the big final toning phase. Okay, so enough. Let's just get on to it. I'm going to refocus so you can see the whole frame, and in time-lapse we're going to go ahead tone this in with my Dixon Ticonderoga and finish it off. All right, well, you know, we're essentially done with this illustration, but I did think I ought to zoom in and do some of the shading on the face in real time, because, yeah, without the shading, this drawing of the face is maybe not complete, and I'm sure some people would benefit from that. So let's go ahead and zoom in to do that. Okay, so we've zoomed in here, and I'm going to go ahead and shade in the irises, being very careful to leave a little white dot there for the highlight. And, yeah, you don't want his irises to get too dark. So basically, I'd say give it a pretty even tone and then beef it up right around the area of the highlight. And then you can maybe create a little ring of darkness around the very edge. But I did want to show you about shading, giving a little shade next to the hair, and especially here underneath the eyebrows. You're going to get a little... shadow going on there, which I think complements this whole devious charmingly devious looking expression on his face. We are going to shade in just a little bit below the nose, keeping that fairly light. And you may want to add a touch of shade or along the upper lip, but definitely down here in the in that area of shade beneath the lower lip. And finally, almost always I see some indication of shading cast by the jaw upon the neck. Sounds like I'm doing some sort of science lesson. And here you see the behavior of light. Anyway, shading in the ear, I think we'll kind of finish this off. Let me again refocus so that you can see the entire thing. Maybe get a little more shade going on. I can never stop, can I? I always say, oh, I'm almost done, and then I add, oh, let's add a little more shade over here. Hey, wait a minute, this could... Anyway, let's go ahead and refocus so we could wrap this up. Of course, having said that I was going to wrap it up, I realized there was something missing here. I added in the edge of the jaw connecting to the ear. There's always something I forget. But let's go ahead and thank anyone who has supported me by getting any of my books. We got the Miki Fall series. We've got the Brody's Ghost series, book 4. Working on book 5. Should be done soon. And Mastering Manga, my How to Draw book. I really do greatly appreciate the support of people who help me out by getting my book.